Hello and welcome everyone to another session from Will to Play. I'm Will Harris, your host. Today we are talking, of course, about Revit families, Rockstar families. This is a basic level. We're in session 3. This is a CMU door. There's a lot of things we're going to cover on the door, including like why we're rebuilding a CMU door, talking about opening and closing, how the host object works, how a family that interacts with something inside of the model, right, is going to work. By the end of this session, what you're going to know is more about these templates. You're going to understand more about your model families versus your annotation families, the scale, right, model lines versus symbolic lines, all these things. And then we're also going to apply that concepts, right? We're going to apply these concepts based off of this problem, right? My client wanted to change the door swing from 90 to 45. Simply you think, no, well, actually, there's some things you can do and make this easy in Revit, but by default, Revit family door does not do this. So the problem is the way, or not the problem, but just the way that the content is built in Revit by default may or may not work for you, right? We've got a CMU door versus I don't know, a wood or metal frame door. What are we going to do? Where do we need to measure from? Right? These concepts, where is that controlled in Revit? Where is the dimensioning of the opening of the door controlled in Revit? It's in the family. Wow. So this is where we're going to attack, and this is how we're going to attack the problem of reference planes, the problem of how you choose which template file you're going to use, and then how it's all going to interact in the final construction documentation. So these are, of course, all of the things that you will learn and know by the end of the session, as we saw before. If you caught the earlier purpose promise, that's what you knew from last session, not this one. So this is this session's, right? We've got lots of things to cover here. Fairly simple, though. The topics are, we're going to use the concepts, then the editors, and then the family in action. This is pretty much the same set of topics that we're always going to cover throughout the entire series of class, right? Family use concepts, some of the new tools, and then actually using it in practice. So here is the concepts. Types, doors, right? Let's talk about doors. A type is just a container. The parameters are king, and you can control visibility from the family and from parameters and from types. So let me expound on this. All right, let's jump into Revit. And we have a door here. This is the final door, right? And now my PowerPoint slide is going, well, types are just containers, parameters are king, control visibility. What does containers and king and all this stuff mean? When we deal with family types, and you create a new family type, all you're doing is saying, I want to create a new container. Click New. New container. Now, if I name this container, I don't know, type 1. Let's make another one, type 2, type 3, type 4. Now, what I've done is created 4 new containers for parameters, right? Type 1. I want, whenever I select this type 1 door, I want the thickness to be something. I want the thickness to be 4. I want the rough width to be something. I want the height to be 8, right? I am changing the parameters under the container that is type 1. Right? We had the small and the large table in session 1. We had the sink clearance versus the turning radius clearance in session 2. And now in session 3, I really want to just dial in here a couple of key concepts. One is that it is really just a container. Parameters are always going to be king. 2, naming convention is critical. I don't know what any of these mean. And all that I'm going to see in a project is type 1, 2, 3, 4. So if these names don't have meaning, you're going to have problems, because not only do you need to be able to read this, anyone needs to be able to read this. So let's go ahead and load this into a project and explain what I mean. The name of the file is w2p_cmu door. I'm going to window tile that and throw my family into the second project, right? So that means that I can place a door. And I'm just trying to expound on the last little bit here, that the naming of that is very critical. Notice that I have the name of the family file, colon, name of the type. That type needs to have meaning behind it. That is the purpose of this slide. The control visibility, that can also be under the type. I just want to reiterate that all of these parameters, including visibility, do you see it or not see it, are going to be under the type. But the type is not really important, because the type is just a container. Realistically, the parameters are king. Any questions about this little slide? We good? Questions? Thoughts? Okay. And we'll just go ahead and move on. Okay, workflow. When you're dealing with families in Revit, conceptually, you can do anything that you want. I can give you a family that will have every single set of hardware that I could possibly choose. Any type of kick plate that I could possibly want on my door. Any kind of door type. Do I need a hollow door, a solid door, an interior door? All of these types. And I can make one massive family. And that massive family, I could name it, Will's Incredible Super Duper Yay Door. The problem with this door is that, guess what? You're going to explode your model. You're going to have too much data. You want to keep families as small as possible. So although you can do everything, although you can model everything in Revit, you don't want to. And although you can do everything in a family, you don't want to. You want to keep this nice and clean, right? So during the Revit process, it's completely different than it is in the AutoCAD process. In the Revit process, we place an object. We call this a placeholder. It's a door. It's a door, and that's it. And from there, let's go back into Revit and get back into the project. It's a door. This is a placeholder door, meaning that I can use any door I want. Placeholders here, very critical. So do we understand the concept of placeholders? If you do, just go ahead and raise your hand. If you don't understand the concept of placeholders, then the idea is that you can put a door here, and then at any point in the project, all you have to do is say, oh, I need a different door. You select that door, you change it to a different door, right? And it changes in section, elevation, 3D, right? We understand the Revit thing. So the idea with Revit is at preliminary design, at design development, or at preliminary design, you're putting a door there. Doesn't matter what kind of door. Design development, you're changing that door to what you need. More specifically, okay, I do need this hardware on the door. There are a couple of cool things that I would like to show you here. 2 tools, right? So I've got a door, I've got door. I'm going to create similar here. And here is a tool. If you've never seen this, when you select an object, I've selected that door type. I've selected a door of that family and that type. Right click, select all instances. This is one of the most important buttons, selections, pull downs, tools. I don't know. But it's misnamed. What it should say is select all instances of this type. So it's not necessarily misnamed, it's just shortened. Select all instances of this type. I had 4 doors whose type, or 3 doors whose type was type 4. 3 different doors. I right-click select all instances of said type. Great little tool to use. Why? Because if you have all of your